Hi, this is Ashley Kay. I hope you've been having a great week. It's getting really warm now in Australia, and it's a really beautiful day outside. So I thought I'd do a video for you. I've been slacking a little bit, I know. I've been feeling a little bit under the weather recently, so I haven't done as many videos, and I apologize for that, but really, I mean, that's no excuse, right? So those of you who want to move on, who want a relationship, are having conflicting thoughts that are actually holding you back. And this is what this video is going to be about, because I really wanted to address this issue of the fact that you now have a negative association with relationships, and that's actually preventing you from moving forward and getting that great, wonderful relationship that you know deep down you want. Oh, you want that great guy or that great girl who loves you, accepts you for who you are, who supports everything you do, you know, like who's really your rock. I know you want that. But then there's the other side of you who feels that relationships, yeah, it's painful. It's not worth it. It's all this drama. It's all this headache. You know, I look around and my friends are having issues. I don't want relationships. You know, I understand that. I've been there too. So what I wanted to more so do is caution you in your current state, because what's really happening right now is that you're in a holding pattern. Like you're going around this thought loop, right? So what the thought is you want a relationship, okay? You do understand the benefits of having a relationship, but then you also don't want a relationship. You don't want a relationship because of all the negative stuff that's also associated to relationships. So you try to move forward and get one, and then you end up sabotaging yourself because you really don't want one as well. So you're in this constant holding pattern, and you don't really go anywhere in terms of your relationships. And the caution here is if you don't try to get yourself out of this holding pattern, this current phase of your life, then you will probably never get out of it. And in fact, I see people who stay in this constant loop, and the reason why is human beings, we love patterns, we love habits, we tend to do the same things over and over again. I mean, it's evident like that if you go sit down in a classroom, you'll tend to always pick the same seat or same position, right? You're not going to go somewhere new because we're used to it. So the idea that you're going to somehow just get out of this loop by yourself, or something's going to happen, or you're going to meet someone, they're going to turn your life all around, that may happen, but the chances are probably much, much lower. And if you're waiting for someone else to come in to rescue you and rescue you out of this spot, you could be waiting for the rest of your life. Okay, and I know that's not nice to think about, but I think it's important that you do think about it, and that you do consider the fact that, okay, in 50 years, I don't know, when you're 70, 80, 90, you could still be in this holding pattern. And I see lots of people do end up, having just one or two great relationships in their 30s, 40s, or whatever, and that's it. You know, like after that, they just couldn't ever trust someone again and have a great relationship again. They just keep going through these casual relationships. And it's actually a concept I call summer and winter. Okay, when you're in summer, we want a relationship. We think positively. We do all the right things. We're naturally attractive because we're positive about relationships. So when you're in summer, you very easily can attract a partner. Okay, you do, without even thinking about it, oh, there's this great guy, there's this great girl who's giving me attention, wants my attention. But then as you get closer to that person, as the triggers of relationship triggers start coming up, it changes. The season changes to now winter. And when it changes to winter, that's when you start to notice, oh, he does this thing that's kind of like my ex, or we're starting to have argument that's similar to my last relationship that ended terribly, and of course, when that happens, you start thinking all the negative stuff now. You start to want to protect yourself because you're starting to preempt that you're going to get hurt. This relationship isn't going to work out anyway. So you're going to sabotage it before you fully get hurt. It's human nature, we don't want to get burnt twice. So we tend to want to protect ourselves. How we protect ourselves is we either do bad behavior deliberately to sabotage it. So we stop answering phone calls. We start to say nasty things, treat that person poorly, whatever it is. Or we just run away and hide. We disappear, right? We ignore phone calls and we do the coward thing of running and hiding. So, and it could be the smallest way that you're sabotaging yourself. So for example, you may have set up an online profile on a dating website, but put the bare minimum effort into that profile, like 5-10 minutes, whatever, just wrote whatever. And then maybe you log on once a month to check messages and say hello to a couple of people, and that's it. You don't do any more than that. That's another way we sabotage things too, because we're saying, well, we're putting in some effort, but we're really not going to put in that much effort because although I want the relationship, I really don't want the relationship. So you see how you constantly try, but then you also backtrack. Sorry, that was the phone. But yeah, so if you constantly see this, and actually, if you just have a look at your past actions and you notice this pattern, I want you to just think about how much energy you're actually wasting by doing this. So, you're trying for a bit and then you're like retracting. You're trying a bit and retracting. You're actually wasting a lot of time and energy and not really going anywhere, right? It's kind of like doing a race and you run a couple of feet and then you run back a couple of feet. Like you're not actually getting anywhere. And I'm just pointing this out for you to be aware of this pattern because it is so common. I went through this too. Lots of people go through. I see lots of people do this to themselves, especially after a breakup, bad breakup or a divorce, because they cannot resolve this conflict that they have inside. And all I'm trying to say is, if you don't make a deliberate effort to move forward, you will not move forward, okay? No one's going to come and rescue you. No one's going to suddenly fall from the sky and make everything better for you. An example I like to use is it's like looking for a job. If you just sit in your room, you never put out any resumes, you never call anybody, is it wise to just sit there, do nothing, and expect a job to just land on your lap? Probably not. And yet people do this all the time with relationships. They just expect that things will just happen somehow, like without them trying, when that is just not the case. A lot of times what you put in is what you'll get back. So if you want to just put in a little bit and then take it back, then, that's just going to continue. So, and how you can get yourself out of this mindset is, first of all, realize that you're not going to get out of it by yourself. And second, all you have to do is realize that think forward a few steps, okay? Think longer term, okay? When you're 70, 80, 90, okay? If you can think that far ahead, maybe that's not even that far ahead for some of you. Do you really want to still be in this holding pattern? Do you still want to be alone? Do you still want to have this negativity surrounding relationships? Do you still want to think back to that one relationship that just killed all relationships for you back, like in your 30s, 40s, 50s or whatever? Think about that. Think about the pain of all that time you're wasting by not really doing things to move forward, by just keeping yourself stuck. If you try to put yourself there and really think about the pain of that will help you get out of it. That's something that, and I know a lot of people don't want to think about that. They don't want to think that long term. They don't want to think till the end of their life. But when it comes to getting the things you want in a life, the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people It's that successful people can think longer term. They can see that their actions today is affecting them tomorrow, the next day, next week, next year, because people like patterns. People do the same thing over and over every day. And unless you make a deliberate effort to change that, it's just going to repeat. You're just going to repeat the same kind of relationships, same unsatisfying relationships, and nothing's really going to get better unless you put in that conscious effort to do something differently and make a change. A good exercise to do is to jot down on a piece of paper all the associations you have with relationships. So you could say, for one, like just off the top of your head, whatever comes to mind, you might write down relationships equals I'm going to get hurt. Relationships is not worth it. Relationships is giving up too much of myself and not getting anything in return. Anything you can think of regarding relationships, write it all down. And after you do this for about 10-20 minutes, have a look at your list. Look at all the negatives that you have to say about relationships and reframe it to something positive. Okay, so you could say, instead of saying relationships are painful, you could say relationships are painful some of the time, but most of the time it is fun and enjoyable and positive. You see how you're kind of reframing that to something positive? Do that for everything on that list, and make sure when you do it, you believe what you're saying. So maybe you're not going to say relationships are awesome. Okay, for example, you're not going to say that because your brain, you can't trick your brain. Your brain knows it's not. It's not wonderful 100% of the time. So you want to say something positive, but also believable, that your brain can accept at least right now. And even if, for example, if you've been cheated on and you really can't think of anything positive to say, maybe something positive you could say is relationships means I may get hurt or get cheated on, but I'm going to learn from that and make sure we build a stronger relationship next time. So that's something slightly positive, attaching something positive in the end, because that's the key to changing your frame. A good thing I suggest to do is to start looking for examples of good relationships around you. So if your parents have had a great marriage and they're happily married, or you have a friend who's happily married, or you meet someone at a bar who's happily married for the last 50 years, interview that person. Really understand why, like what made their relationship work. How do they think about relationships? Ask them what are the benefits of being in a relationship, because maybe you've just forgotten. Okay, you're so focused on the negative stuff that there's probably positives about it that you have forgotten or you didn't even realize that you could have. So you want to go out and gather evidence that relationships are good, relationships are positive, relationships are rewarding, so you can get yourself out of this loop, because you do want a relationship. Okay, you wouldn't be watching this video if you didn't, right? We all need it. We all need someone who supports us, accepts us, loves us. It's a part of growing up, and learning about relationships is one of the hardest things to learn in our lifetime, but hey, we have many chances to learn it, so it's not just a one-time deal. If you screw up, you can try again, but you do need that positive mindset to be able to pick yourself back up and try again. If you have questions for me, if you're currently going through something similar, if you're dating somebody and you noticing you're sabotaging yourself, leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll talk to you soon in my next video. See ya.